Well, that's it. It's over, folks. The Mets, the dream of a World Series and an unlikely championship, and all of that came crashing down last night in Game 6 of the NLCS. The Mets lose 10-5 to the Los Angeles Dodgers, who advance now to play the Yankees in the World Series starting Friday night. And I thought the Mets were gonna take Game 6. I thought that they had an advantage with Manaea pitching and the bullpen game being thrown by the Dodgers. And the problem is that, and it starts right off the bat, it's that Manaea didn't have it last night. That's where it all starts, and kind of where it ends too. You got to figure you're going to give up some runs to the Dodgers, but you don't want to give up 10 runs. It was huge that the Dodgers came back and got 2 runs in the bottom of the first after the Mets scored in the top. The Mets got a run in the top of the first, and I was like, okay, here we go. We're in good shape. They're going to just continue from Game 5. And then when the Dodgers responded right away off Manaea, he just didn't have it last night. And when you're in that bullpen in the third inning, the Mets bullpen is not very strong. We know it's not strong yet. Diaz in the game in the 5th, and the Mets fought, right? They fought their way the whole game. They got the tying run on board in the 6th inning when Alvarez came to the plate and he hit a sac fly. You know, they had second and third. They're down 6-3. He gets up. Vientos hit a big 2-run home run. But it all starts and ends with the fact that Manaea didn't have it. And they needed Manaea to go 6 or 7 innings, maybe 2 or 4 runs, tops, if they wanted to be in this game and win this game. And they couldn't do it. Manaea was out of the game in the 3rd inning. Diaz was in the 5th. And when he brought Matone in, like what are you doing bringing Matone in? He's been the worst guy out of this bullpen the whole playoffs. And the first pitch he throws is like 3 feet, not 3 feet left of the catcher. I don't know what that was, but that was an ominous sign too. And then he gives up a 2-run home run, and just like that, it's 4-1, and it's over right there. Manaea came. We needed Manaea to pitch 7 innings, 3-4 runs for them to have a chance, because you could have a chance against the Dodgers bullpen, but they were already in the bullpen to start the game, and it just kind of worked out. It worked out. They've done it now 3 times. A bullpen game the Dodgers have in these playoffs, and 2 times they've won the games. So maybe I'm not right about the bullpen game being such a terrible thing in the playoffs. I wouldn't do it, just because I think you're trying to get into a team's bullpen, and you start the game when they're in your bullpen. So I didn't think that Mendoza had a great game last night. I didn't like him bringing Matone in when it's still 2-1. You know, you get it was 3-1. I'm sorry, at that point. You get Manaea out. I also would have maybe see if you could let Manaea work through it a little bit. Because once you go to the bullpen in the 3rd inning, the game's over. The Mets bullpen is not getting 21 outs and holding that Dodger lineup to anything under 7 or 8 runs. And they didn't even get, a big game from Ohtani, multiple home runs from him and Betts. They didn't get that. You had Francoeur, who was out of the game. You had Edman, who he just had a great series. He had 11 RBIs in the series. He said, I think he set a Dodger record. But you know what? It's you could look at all that and you could point out the mistakes and everything that happened last night. And we could go over Mendoza bringing in Matone or bringing in Diaz in the 5th inning to try and, keep it as he was in desperation mode at that point. When you see him bring in Diaz in the 5th inning and it's 4-1 or it's 6-3, and he's in complete desperation mode, just grasping at straws, trying to get to the next inning to keep his team in it. And they stayed in it somewhat. I wouldn't say they were ever really in the game. Once it got to 4-1 and then 6-1, and then Vientos, who just, again, has an unbelievable playoff. He had a 2-run homer last night. He got them back to 6-3. And it's 6-3 and 7-4. The Mets put the tying runs on base, but they couldn't get the big hit when they needed it. The magic ran out. You knew the magic that they had. You couldn't continue to win games like that with just these unbelievable comebacks and unbelievable homer. It just wasn't going to continue. And we never saw this coming anyway. This was a punt year, and they punted it all the way to the NLCS. And Game 6 of the NLCS at that, against one of the better teams, the better lineups we've ever seen. The Dodgers are unbelievable. They just are relentless with that lineup, and they will continue to score. And you can't be too far ahead against them because they'll come back. And it looked like the Mets were off to a good start yesterday, and it just kind of fell apart right away. It never really lasted. Because in the bottom of the first inning, when the Dodgers got the 2 runs, I was like, it could be one of the Mets can't play one of those games with the Dodgers. You can't have a shootout with the Dodgers and hope to win when you're shooting a pistol and they're shooting a machine gun, because that's what it is. They are that good, and they will just continue to expand the lead, and before you know it, it's 10-3 or something like that, and the game's over. So, I thought they would. I did think they would win yesterday. I said that I thought they would lose in 7, but give the Mets all the credit in the world. This team is a team that we're gonna remember for a long time as Mets fans. And the worst part about it is that these teams that we remember as Mets fans, one, they don't win championships. 2, this could be a year that the Yankees are going to win the World Series. So on one of our more fun years we've had in this was more fun than 2015, which was a great year. They won the pennant. They went to the World Series, but this was just out of nowhere. I mean, they finished the season not knowing if they were going to be in the playoffs. They had to play a doubleheader the day after the regular season ended just to get into the playoffs. And then just from there, all the heroics from Lindor's home run in Atlanta to Alonso's 3-run homer in the 9th inning, down 2-0 in Milwaukee, to the grand slam by Lindor at Citi Field against the Phillies, to the big innings the other night in Game 5 with their backs against the wall, to the Vientos coming out of nowhere and just having a one of the all-time postseasons we've ever seen from a Mets player. Everything about it was fun, and it got us into almost to the end of October. A team that was supposed to win maybe 80 games, 75 games, hope to hang around the wild card, play some September meaningful baseball games, got all the way to Game 6 of the NLCS, and it sucks. It hurts. It sucks that there's not a game tonight. I fully expected a game tonight because I thought that they would carry over what they did in Game 5 into last night. And like I said, we could pick apart the issues with last night's game. I think Mendoza didn't. I think he might have had one of his worst games as a manager. I didn't like what he was doing. And I get it. He's desperate. And you're just trying to do anything you can to stop the bleeding at that point when it's, when you're down 3 runs and 4 runs and you could see it slipping away. But for him to pull Minaya in that 3rd inning and bring in Matone, I think was just what are you doing? He's been terrible all for the last 2 months. Like, Stanek's got to come in there. He could stop the bleeding, and then you could kind of get it to Matone. Either way, you weren't gonna bridge 21 outs. You weren't getting 21 outs out of your bullpen. Whichever way you slice it, within whichever order you wanted to bring the guys in, it wasn't going to happen. This bullpen's not good enough to get 21 outs. You needed Minaya to go 6-7 innings and then hope to get 9 outs or 7 outs out of your bullpen. And when the Mets landed in the bullpen in the 3rd inning, it was over, and it didn't take long. Matone threw a pitch 3 feet left of the catcher to start with. I still don't know what that was. And then he get within a couple batters, it's a 2-run home run, and it's basically away they go. And the Braves, the Dodgers, basically ran away, and they just increased the lead. And the Mets fought to the end. You had McNeil, another one. McNeil, I didn't think he should really be in the lineup. He had a couple good swings, but over the course of this series, like, he had one good swing in Game 5, and one of those sac flies, he hit it to the track. But other than that, I mean, McNeil was out for 3 weeks. He struggled the whole first half of the season. He was terrible. He was an automatic out for a lot of the season. Picked it up a bit in the second half, but he's never the McNeil that we saw 2 years ago. But he's been better. I wouldn't have put him in the lineup. I would have maybe take a flyer on Acuna. See if you could catch lightning in a bottle there, because he's going to be you could tell he's going to be a big time player, and the future looks good. There's a bunch of money coming off the books. I don't think that's everyone seems to be focusing on the money off the books. And listen, Steve Cohen's got billions of dollars, right? A couple extra. He was willing to pay. He paid half of the other team's salaries this year. Mets had $150 million in dead money that they were paying other players' salaries on other teams. Now that's going to come off. That's going to, they're going to have some free up money. You got Alonso, you got Manaea, both going to be free agents. Can Lindor keep this up? He's now going to be a year older. What do you do with Alonso? You need to get bullpen help. You need bullpen help because this bullpen just collapsed on multiple. There were weeks where they blew a week's worth of games in the bullpen. Diaz, I mean, what do you do with? There's a lot of questions with this team now going forward, and they have some money, and I don't think it's go after Soto. I don't think that's the end all be all. I want to see them go after Soto, but I don't think it's like laser focus on Soto. I think the biggest issue with this team is the bullpen. You got to shore up that bullpen because it's just heartbreaking losses and backbreaking losses, and it just crushes the soul of a team when the bullpen is bad. And we saw it many times over the course of the season. We didn't see it as much in the playoffs. There were some games, though. Diaz, just look at the Braves game to get in the playoffs, the game one of the doubleheader. The Mets had that huge 6-run inning, and Diaz comes in and gives it right back. And if it wasn't for the Lindor 2-run heroic home run in the ninth inning, we might never even have experienced any of this. They were just as clutch can be for about 3 weeks, and it was as fun as it could be for about 3 weeks, and it sucks because it comes to just a crashing halt. You were high as anything yesterday, ready to go, going back to Cali. We're going to 6-7, and then within really an hour and a half, it just crashes and burns. Because you didn't really think they were coming back at 6-3 and 7-3, and then 7-4. The only time I thought maybe we could do this is when Alvarez was up, down 7-4, 2 outs, 2 on, and he hit a lazy fly ball to right field to end the inning. And once that happened, it wasn't their night. And the one way they could have been their night, you needed Manaea to be great, and he wasn't. And you can't get on. How can you really get on him that much? He carried this rotation for the whole second half of the year. He was he's going to get Cy Young votes. He was lights out every fifth day. You got Lindor, who was just unbelievable all year. You got Alonso, who struggled for most of the year, but it's all forgiven with the home run that he hit. I mean, a 3-run, ninth inning, down 2, 3-run home run. That's as good as it gets. I don't think he's going to be on the team next year. I could see him going like to the Cubs or something like that. I think Vientos is too good and he's too cheap right now. I think they'll probably restructure Vientos' contract, give him maybe $10 million a year. You save $15 million because you're not going to pay Pete $25 or $30 or whatever it is. You put Vientos on first base. You teach him the position, and he could probably be your first baseman in the next 10 years. And you could get 5 years at $10 million or $15 million from him, rather than paying Pete 8 or 9 years at $25 million a year. So I think that's it. I think last night was probably it for Pete Alonso. Diaz, I think you got to get something. You got to get something in the bullpen. I don't know where they're going to get it from. I don't know who they're going to get. I haven't looked at who was really available. But, you could question if Diaz should be the closer the next year. He probably will be. Lindor's there. You could question now, what are you going to do? Because you're going to have these kids now that you traded last year at the trade deadline. You're going to have these kids now starting to come up. The pitching is good. The starting pitching looks good. The Mets have always had good starting pitching. I'd like to get maybe another big name to go along with Manaea. But Peterson maybe that name is Peterson. Because how good was he? I think you keep Stanek and everybody, because Stanek you control for another year, and everybody else could just, you could just, whatever you want to do with them. I really don't care to see anybody in that bullpen really on this team. Even Diaz, it really doesn't matter to me either way. But they got to get help in the bullpen. That's got to be a major focus. Of course, the Alonso thing. I don't think he's coming back. I think you're going to hear them probably relatively soon. They're going to start to gear away towards Alonso, and you're going to see what they're going to do. They're going to put Vientos at first base. They're going to restructure his deal, give him an extra $10 million. He's making like $800,000 this year. He set records for multiple hit games in the playoffs by a Met, RBIs in the playoffs by a Met, and this guy's making $700,000. So you give him a nice raise, you teach him first base, and you got your first baseman for the rest of the next 10 years. As far as Alvarez goes, I think Alvarez just had a sophomore slump this year. I like Alvarez. He's the catcher. He's going to be the catcher for, again, with Viento, like the next 10 years. I think this was a bit of a sophomore slump. I'm not too worried about it. He can swing the bat. He hits the ball hard. He's a good catcher. He handles the pitching staff. He reminds me of Pudge Rodriguez with not as good of an arm. I think they're set there. Iglesias probably not going to be on this team, right? You could see it was starting to catch up to him in the playoffs. He got benched the last couple of games. Iglesias, I think this was kind of a magical season for him. He was leaving baseball. This was kind of, okay, he's a magical season for him. He had his pop song and oh my God, and everything like that. You probably won't have Iglesias on this team. But you know what? You got a good team. You got a good core. You got some good kids coming up from the minors. And then if you can go out and sign, one or two bats and shore up the bullpen, then the Mets will be good. Whether that includes Soto or Alonso, I don't know. Let's see what Soto's going to go to who offers them the most money. The Mets can offer him the most money. They certainly can. Will they? I don't know. But it kind of sucks because this team, again, you're going to lose this team. Like, no matter what happens, it's not going to be this group, this, oh my God, grimace, and that's all gone now. That thing, that crashed and burned, and it ended last night. And it sucks because it's a lot of fun, right? I got on them with the grimace thing. I think it's stupid, but it was fun. Yeah, the Haktua girl, they made some bad choices. The Mets were a bad team for up until, June. They were a bad baseball team, embarrassing themselves. I mean, remember? It wasn't that long ago. And then all of a sudden they went on this crazy run. And that's probably the best part about it. The best part about it is that we never saw it coming. It's not expected. There were no expectations. And then all of a sudden it just kind of happened. And that's the best part of it. That's where it's the most fun. Because if you look at the Yankees run to the playoffs, through the playoffs to the World Series, and the Dodgers run through the playoffs to the World Series, it's very, clinicky. It's corporate feel. They're supposed to do it. They haven't accomplished anything yet. Every time the Mets won a game, they accomplished something that we never thought they would accomplish in the playoffs. Yankees and Dodgers are still sitting there saying, we haven't done anything yet. And I know you wanted to win the World Series. We all want to win the World Series. And it'll happen. It'll happen one day. And in years like this, where we didn't win, and when we got close, and we could taste it, and we could see it, it was right there. These are the years that will make that year that much more special. So the Mets lose 10-5, Game 6 of the NLCS. The World Series is set. It's Dodgers-Yankees. It should be a great series. Listen, it's two powerhouse teams, two great lineups. I'm rooting for the Dodgers. Can't root for the Yankees, so it doesn't matter either way. I'm rooting for the Dodgers. I'll probably pick the Dodgers. We'll go over it this week. We'll break it down, talk about the matchups and the lineups and the great players and the Hall of Famers that are in this World Series. But today it's about the Mets and just remembering how good this season was. Not for the whole season, because it was bad. It was bad, and it was up and down and a roller coaster ride. And one day to the next, you didn't know what you were getting from this team. And then they put it all together at the very right time and made a run to Game 6 of the World Series, where they ran into the Dodgers, a better team. They got beat. It's not like they got beat by a worse team. The Dodgers, that lineup is incredible. As mad and as upset you are today, it'll get better real fast because you'll start to remember all the highlights. And you know, that's going to be the best part. This is going to be a team that the Mets fans love, and they, for a long time, they'll be coming back to old timers days and all that stuff, getting big ovations for what they did over the last 6 weeks. So that puts a bow on the Mets season. We're gonna leave you with the video that I put together which is all the highlights of what happened over these last 6 weeks and how much fun it was. And that's what we'll remember. So till next year for the Mets, don't worry, we'll get past this. Mets lose Game 6. Dodgers, Yankees of the World Series. We'll talk to you later, everybody. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube, the Swell app, and of course at lockedupsports.net. I'm Bob Walters from the Brian Gunzel Studios. See ya.
Nobody in the ballpark. 0-5. Hitless through 7. Feels like rock bottom.
Until then, you guys just get the snacks that you can and try and keep nourished.
White goes back, takes a look, and it's out of here! Brandon Nimmo puts a hammer down with a 2-run homer!
First pitch to Lindor. Swinging a high fly ball, well hit right center. Harris going back. It's on the way. It is gone. Into the Braves bullpen in right center field. Francisco Lindor has an MVP moment.
Knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous. But on the surface, he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps
Ground
on
ball.
forgetting what he
Lindor
wrote
waits on
down.
it. He's got it.
The ball game is over. From 0-5 to OMG. What a run. The Mets are going to the postseason in 2020.
3-1 to Alonso. Williams sets. Here's the pitch. Swinging a fly ball to right field. Pretty well hit. Feeling back at the wall. He jumps. It's gone. He did it. He did it. Pete Alonso with the most memorable home run of his career. Comes to second, one goes to first. Out at first. Out at first. Put it in the box. Punching on each other. Going to land in the third base hit. Beyond the reach of home into left field. Here comes Lindor to score the go-ahead run. Endo's at third. And out at first with an RBI single is Brandon Nimmo. The Endo hits it high in the air. The left fielding's got legs. It's deep. It's back near the wall. It is gone. Mark Endo has added yet another chapter to what is becoming a ridiculous postseason for the New York Mets. He's tied the game.
Against Harper. Schwarber at second, Turner at first in the sixth. 0-2. Got it. Reaches out to second, caught by Iglesias. Double play.
Now screams once or twice as he walks off the mound. As to save the Phillies season. Now the pitch. Swinging a drive towards the captain right center. It's pretty deep. It's back near the wall. It's gone. It's gone. Francisco Lindor. He has just outdone himself. He has hit a grand slam into the Phillies bullpen in right center field. The Mets are leading by a score of 4-1. Come set. 1-2 pitch. Swung on and missed it. Pull up the box. To the New York Mets. California. Here we come.
Games, I'ma change the two cold rage. Tear this motherfucking roof off like two dogs' cage. I was playing in the beginning, the mood all changed. I've been chewed up and spit out and booed on stage. But I kept rhyming and stepped right in the next cipher. Best believe somebody's paying the Pied Piper. All the pain inside amplified by the fact that I can't get by with my 9 to 5 and I can't provide the right type of life for my family. Cause man, these goddamn food stamps don't buy diapers. And there's no movie, there's no Mackay Pfeiffer.
I don't believe anybody scored more 4-plus run innings than the New York Mets did this year, and they put up a 4 spot here.
When the line hits your lyrics, just picture it's so hard that your head can't fit you. Either I'm with you or against you. Check it, it's the N-O-T-O-R-I-O-U-S. You just lay down slow. Recognize a real dawn when you see one. Sipping on booze in the house of blues. I'm going back to Cali. I'm going back to Cali. I'm going back to Cali.
Shorter, but it's a sacrifice fly to score.